Chet Huntley, NBC News, New York.
And David Brinkley, NBC News, Washington. The Pentagon set up a panel to find out why the killings at My Lai weren't known to the Army's leaders for about a year and a half, to see why an investigation at the time found nothing. Today, the panel reported it had found no evidence that anyone in the lower levels of command had tried to cover it up. A civilian lawyer speaking for the board promised also that there would be no whitewash.
The Special Army panel heard more testimony behind closed doors. Lieutenant General William Pierce is heading the inquiry, but a civilian attorney, Robert McCrate, has been designated special counsel. He says the hearings will be thorough and unbiased.
I will not accept in any respect the suggestion that this is a Star Chamber proceeding. And I am indeed participating in this as a representative of the public. I would not have undertaken it had I not been assured that it would be such an investigation. I do not see evidence any place at this time of a whitewash. Quite the contrary, what we are engaged in is getting out the facts.
The other Washington investigation on My Lai is being conducted by a subcommittee of the House. Today it heard the testimony of helicopter pilot Hugh Thompson. It was Thompson who reportedly first observed civilians being shot at My Lai. He spent about 2 hours before the panel telling what he did see. When it was over, Chairman Mendel Rivers said Thompson's statements did not support the claim of a massacre.
He was very frank with us. He volunteered all the information which he knew about what happened at My Lai. He evacuated some women and children from My Lai. And he was very frank in telling us what he saw at My Lai. But he made no charges against anybody there this morning. He did identify, he did tell us he saw some dead bodies, but he didn't see anybody commit anything who could be charged with participating in a massacre.
There are members of the committee who dispute Chairman Rivers' version of Thompson's testimony. They contend the helicopter pilot did establish that a massacre might have taken place. There is concern among liberals on the committee that Chairman Rivers may be attempting to whitewash My Lai. Robert Goralski, NBC News, Washington.
The American Civil Liberties Union says the coverage of the My Lai killings by the news media has raised grave questions, and we are told that tomorrow the ACLU will recommend that Lieutenant William Kelly not be tried at all. Chet?
The official figures won't be released until tomorrow, but American military sources in Saigon said today that United States casualties for the week ending last Saturday fell to the lowest point in 3 years. There was a week in December 1966 when 44 Americans were killed. Sometime before Christmas, the 2,500 men sent to Vietnam by the Philippines are going home. They've been there for 3 years, and the charge has been made and denied by the Filipinos that this country paid for their presence.
The Filipinos have never played a combat role in Vietnam, but during their time here, they have built 120 miles of new roads, constructed 11 bridges, cleared nearly 800 acres of forest, put up 54 new refugee centers. In short, all their projects here have been designed for the improvement of the Vietnamese way of life. In Vietnam's inflated economy, meat and poultry prices are beyond the reach of the average family. Because of this, the Filipinos have established more than 20 pig and poultry farms in Tay Ninh province. The effect has been to lower the price of pork, poultry, and eggs. For instance, pork has dropped from about $3 per kilo, or slightly over 2 pounds, to about $2. The cost of the chicken remains high, about $3 for a live one, but is also dropping. Perhaps the biggest contribution made by the Filipinos here is in their medical and dental programs. The Philippine medical or MedCap teams have treated more than 1 million people. They hope to continue to operate as volunteers in the remote hamlets and villages. Even as non-combatants, the Filipinos have suffered their share of losses. Enemy gunners shelled their base camp in Tay Ninh with 10 rounds of 120mm mortars. 1 round hit the nurses' living quarters. Fortunately, those assigned to the room were at the base hospital. However, 3 Filipino soldiers were wounded in the attack. Overall, the group has suffered 9 killed and 65 wounded, a high percentage for a small group which did not come to Vietnam to fight. This Philippine detachment leaves Vietnam with a sense of accomplishment. They also depart this disputed land with a sense of frustration for those projects that must be left behind uncompleted. They came here to build, not destroy, and they have taken offense at recent criticism in the United States that what they have built was for profit and not for goodwill. Jim Dunnett, NBC News in Tay Ninh.
The Huntley-Brinkley Report is produced by NBC News and brought to you in color by Tareyton with the activated charcoal filter. Put Tareyton's charcoal filter on your cigarette, and you'd have a better tasting cigarette.
Cigarette filters may look different, but inside...
Ladies and gentlemen, we are temporarily experiencing difficulty in the video portion of our transmission from NBC. Please stand by.
Tareyton's charcoal filters the smoke to deliver a taste no plain white filter can match.
In fact, if you could put Tareyton's charcoal filter on your cigarette, you'd have a better tasting cigarette. Better, but not as good as a Tareyton.
That's why us Tareyton smokers would rather fight than switch.
I always thought that detergents were alike.
Women didn't believe the unbelievable detergent, Gain, from Procter & Gamble.
I get a sample and usually use it once and that's it.
But after using Gain...
Gain was really the greatest that I have found, that it has solved my laundry problems.
Well, I've had a handkerchief where I had the blood stain, and no problem.
I don't know why it's different, but it does a better job.
Gain does a better job than conventional detergents because it has microenzyme action. See, stains are locked in, but Gain's enzymes actually unlock stains biologically. Everything comes unbelievably clean.
Beautiful. Don't believe me. Buy it and try it.
I use Gain now, except when I can't get Gain because it goes like hotcakes. Everybody likes it.
Women who use Gain believe in Gain, the unbelievable detergent. Gain treats stains like dirt.
There will be no exhumation of the body of Mary Jo Kopechne. That was the ruling today of Pennsylvania Judge Bernard J. Brominski. Miss Kopechne died last July 18th when a car driven by Senator Edward M. Kennedy, and in which she was riding, plunged off a narrow bridge and into a tidal pond. Massachusetts District Attorney Edmund S. Denise had filed a request for exhumation and an autopsy to establish whether the girl had died of drowning. No autopsy was performed following her death last July. Judge Brominski said today the records show Miss Kopechne had drowned. In Washington, Senator Kennedy said he hoped Massachusetts authorities would now move forward and conclude the case. It had taken Judge Brominski 7 weeks to reach his decision. It was passed out today without comment in his courtroom in Wilkes-Barre. In the decision, the judge indicated he had given considerable weight to the parents' opposition to an autopsy. Later, the parents held a news conference.
What does this decision mean to you, Mr. and Mrs. Kopechne?
This means that I'll come up here very, very often to visit my daughter. I couldn't have faced coming back and going up to the cemetery. And this is, I honestly mean this, I could never have gone up to that cemetery again if I'd known it had been disturbed. I'll be back.
Mr. Kopechne, apparently an inquest will be held. Does that disturb you or Mrs. Kopechne?
No, it doesn't. In fact, we're waiting patiently for the inquest to be held.
Are you satisfied with the Senator's explanation?
Well, yes.
Mrs. Kopechne?
Yes.
Three young girls, looking so extraordinarily like any young girls, stood in a Los Angeles court today in the opening round of their confrontation with justice. Susan Denise Atkins, 21, Linda Louise Kasabian, 20, and Leslie Van Houten, 19, are defendants in the Sharon Tate and La Bianca murders. The three were ordered held without bail and were told to reappear in court on the 16th to enter their pleas. David?
When 2 Black Panthers in Chicago were killed in a gun battle with police the other night, the police said they were fired on first and other Panthers who were there say it didn't happen that way at all. Whatever the facts, there is a good deal of controversy about how the killings occurred. And today, a spokesman for the police called a news conference to make his statement. Joseph J. Lefevre of the Fraternal Order of Police.
The Black Panthers preach every day hate, kill Whitey, kill the police, kill the pigs, hate, hate, hate. That's all you hear from them. Did they expect those police officers to walk into that apartment with pea shooters? You've seen the guns that were there. What were they there for?
One of the two dead Panthers was Fred Hampton, chairman of the Illinois chapter of the party. Last night, his funeral was held in a Chicago suburb a few miles from where he grew up. About 5,000 people filed past the casket, even during the service. When Hampton was leading the Panthers, not very many of these people followed him. Some even spoke out against him. But last night, Panthers and moderate civil rights leaders were sounding pretty much alike.
If we don't use the teachings of Chairman Fred to guide our lives, then destruction is our next order of business. We will be wiped out. We will be wiped out. We won't have anything left.
There is a calculated design of genocide in this country. And for too long, black people have been on the hands of white America. And America is doing everything within our power to destroy us and to kill us. Wear your robe well, Freddie, because we are going to trample these streets with our feet. Enjoy your peace, Freddie, because there will be no peace in this land until freedom comes to all.
In Washington, the Justice Department is considering a request from Illinois for it to see if excessive force has been used by local police in arresting the Black Panthers.
Whatever happened to Tom Harmon? Remember old 98, the kid who had trouble keeping his shirt on? Well, I'm still getting pushed around, but now it's my grandchildren. I guess I should be feeling on the old side, but I don't. Of course, at my age, you have to live smarter if you want to stay on the young side. Sensible exercise with sensible eating, starting with a powerhouse breakfast. Kellogg's Product 19. This is the first and only cereal with 100% of the minimum daily adult requirements for both vitamins and iron. And all of us need vitamins and iron for good health. It's good to know you're getting all that nourishment, especially when it tastes as great as Product 19. How about it, Pooh?
I like it.
You know, my father once told me, it's not how old you are, it's how young you feel. So plan to get back on the young side, starting with Kellogg's Product 19.
Better eat up, Grandpa. You're gonna need it.
The Huntley Brinkley Report continues, brought to you by
Anacin tablets. Anacin relieves headache pain and so relaxes its tension. Anacin.
The sleep of the innocent. No problems, no aches and pains. But your world is different. And the aches and pains of the day can linger to infest the night, and you can't get the sleep you need. Reach for Anacin. Anacin tablets soothe your nighttime pains with the pain reliever doctors recommend most. Anacin gives you all the pain relief you really need to help you sleep. Anacin. All the pain relief you really need.
Here's the fastest relief known for bronchial asthma attacks. Actually can restore free breathing as fast as 15 seconds. Proved by a doctor's time test. It's Primatene Mist. Primatene Mist penetrates into congested lungs, opens clogged breathing tubes, relaxes bronchial spasms, so asthma attack is relieved fast. free breathing restored, in and out. Get Primatene Mist, fastest relief known for bronchial asthma attacks.
At Akron State University, a group of black students occupied the administration building because the school had refused their demands. Ohio's Governor Rhodes said the state would not put up with this. He called the state highway patrol and alerted the National Guard, and then the students gave up the building. Some of the black population in Memphis, Tennessee, has called a series of strikes for about a year. A school boycott just ended. A boycott of white merchants continues. Black workers at a hospital are on strike now. Today, 17 union leaders and others surrendered to police.
Last night, a Memphis grand jury indicted 19 people in connection with a recent school boycott. Today, 17 of them met with reporters and called for a united black movement in Memphis.
We will not be turned back. We feel that this is a signal that men of goodwill, both black and white alike, must now stand on their hind legs and make democracy in Memphis work and make it a reality rather than yielding to the kinds of pressures that was used on the plantations of the beloved state from which I come, the great sovereign state of Mississippi. And Memphis, as I have said from the very first day I came here, was the capital of Mississippi, and the action here is indicative of a Ross Barnett, and that kind of spirit is being manifest here in Memphis, and by the grace of God, we're going to change it. Amen.
Following the news conference, the civil rights leaders and their followers began a march to the criminal courts building to surrender. The indictment charges them with inciting juveniles to stay out of school in protest of no black representation on the school board. A tentative agreement has been reached to put black advisors on the board, and the students have returned to class. The group condemned the grand jury for its action and called for Negroes to intensify their boycott of white-owned stores. When the marchers reached the criminal courts building, 17 of the 19 indicted turned themselves over to sheriff's deputies. Nine of them were released after posting a $1 bond. In protest, 8 others chose to remain in jail at least until Monday. 2 persons, including the Reverend Ralph Abernathy, were not present. Abernathy is expected to arrive in Memphis this weekend to surrender. Stephen Schiff, NBC News, Memphis.
For more than 2 months, black workers have been on strike at St. Joseph's Hospital in Memphis. They want a union for lower-paid employees, kitchen and housekeeping workers, mostly black. But the hospital insists that any union vote include all its employees. Most of them are white. To put pressure on the hospital, the union has intensified a boycott of downtown stores. The hospital claims the strike is a flop, that only a few workers are out, that most employees are satisfied anyway with starting pay of $1.80 an hour. But the union says it wants the right of collective bargaining. The strike has caused a sharp split in the Catholic Church. Most priests, like Father Walter Bush, are against the union.
To the Lord. For St. Joseph's Hospital,
But the Bishop of Tennessee has appealed to the hospital to settle the dispute, to no avail.
I believe that the Christian ethic that I speak of is just not realized somehow or other, that it is a moral question, and that I keep coming back to that. And that's been my one pulpit and my one sermon, and I ask them to swallow their pride and settle their differences a little bit at a bargaining table. That has been my only sermon, and that is my interest there.
Lord, he hasn't got more than 1% with him. What about the 99% of the people? What about the 90% of the priests? I mean, if you sit down with these people and just go slow about this thing, get a program, listen to this priest, listen to his priest. They've been down here longer than he has. So, I mean, we've worked with the people, and we talk with the people. I have to be a part of my people, see? I have to understand my people's mentality.
There are many in the pew, as well-meaning as people are, who don't understand that this problem is really a moral problem.
No, I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong in that. I think he's wrong. I think the rest of the priests are... When you get out of 68 priests there, when you get 58 priests, say, or 60, I'd say it's around 60 priests, who disagree, don't you think that would tell you something?
The union says racism is involved. The hospital says just as emphatically that it is not. But I know one thing, and know one thing for sure, that Memphis is a disturbed city.
There's a little prejudice. I couldn't tell you otherwise. It wouldn't be truthful. I think there is some prejudice. But I think that's it's gradually disappearing. And I don't think that that's the issue at stake in Garcia and Joe's Hospital. I might be wrong.
The one thing I am sure of, however, is, like I think once again has been said, the union is not going to go away.
In your pocket! In your pocket! In your pocket! In your pocket!
So the boycott continues, and St. Joseph's Hospital, supported by many Roman Catholic churches, continues to resist. Charles Quinn, NBC News, reporting.
The mafia in one state has got control of a number of internal revenue agents. This was announced today by Attorney General Mitchell. He did not say which state, but there are reports it is New Jersey, where the mafia is known to be exceptionally active. Mitchell said some indictments could be expected within about 10 days. Chet?
The Senate acted up again today on the tax reform bill. This time it tacked on an amendment having nothing to do with taxes or reform. It would permit the president to set quotas when imports hurt the sales of American products. Senator Williams said this represented a deliberate attempt to kill the bill.
Did you know Pell-Mell Gold 100s are longer, yet milder, smoother tasting? And United States government figures show Pell-Mell Gold is actually lower in tar than the best-selling Filter King. Yes, it's longer than king-sized, yet milder, smoother tasting. Pell-Mell Gold. Menthol, too. Longer, yet milder.
If you're a menthol smoker, here's something worth taking a long look at. Pell-Mell Menthol 100s. U.S. government figures show Pell-Mell Menthol lower in tar than the best-selling Menthol King. Longer than king size, yet milder, cooler tasting. Pell-Mell Menthol. Longer,
yet milder.
The United States and the Soviet Union met again today in Helsinki, and the Russians said the two countries have reached an agreement which will lead to definitive talks on limiting nuclear weapons. Philip Habib will be the American negotiator at the Paris peace talks tomorrow. Henry Cabot Lodge is gone, and so the American delegation has been downgraded for the time being. A Western source said the allies don't much care if the other side decides to do the same thing. In Brussels, the NATO allies decided to look into some strange subjects, strange for them at any rate. That includes hippies, pollution, highway accidents, and man's fears of an automated society. All this week, the rains have fallen in Venice. The city has been flooded, and the citizens don't seem to be doing much about it.
Every day for the last 4 days now, the flood warning has sounded in Venice. And every day for the last 4 days, when high tide comes, Venice has been flooded. The Piazza San Marco, the city's best-known landmark, has been under about 2 feet of water during high tide these last 4 days. Floods used to be rare in Venice, but Venice is sinking slowly, and the world's sea level is rising slowly. And this time of year, hot African winds rough up the Adriatic Sea and produce abnormally high tides. So autumn floods in Venice are no longer rare. They're common, something the citizens of the town are learning to live with. It is this stoic acceptance which most worries those who love Venice. They say the city can be saved with proper planning and with enough money. It is one of the world's most beautiful cities, but it is sinking. It is decaying. More and more people are abandoning it each year, moving to higher ground, and each year the floods come, each year a little higher, and nothing is being done about it. Douglas Kiker, NBC News, reporting.
Senator Goldwater is in Vietnam looking around, and he, a retired Air Force general, said he thought the U.S. made a bad mistake when it stopped the bombing and that he would be in favor of starting it up again. Former President Lyndon Johnson will be in Washington tomorrow for a wedding. President Nixon has invited him to the White House for breakfast, and he has accepted. Chet?
Former astronaut John Glenn is expected to announce tomorrow that he will run for the Senate from Ohio. He will go after the seat being vacated by Stephen Young, who is quitting because of age. Dr. Herbert Lay was removed today as head of the Food and Drug Administration and offered a post under the administration's chief medical man, Dr. Roger Egerberg. He hasn't said whether he'll take the job. Welfare Secretary Finch didn't like the way Lay handled the cyclamates ban. United Mine Workers President W.A. Boyle apparently has been reelected, but his opponent, Joseph Yablonsky, refused to concede, insisting there was widespread voting fraud. Mississippi Governor John Bell Williams announced plans for nationwide filing of lawsuits against school segregation. He said he hopes to do so to change public opinion and to force Congress to re-examine the nation's school integration laws. Prices were mixed today on the New York Stock Exchange. The Dow Jones Industrials gained a fraction of a point, and the price of an average share went down 3 cents. Wall Street analysts said today's small gain didn't mean a change in the market's downward trend. David?
The Apollo 12 astronauts, like those who went to the moon before them, seem to have contracted no illness, picked up no germs or infections or moon madness or other ill effects, and so today they were let out of quarantine early.
How good that sun feels. That's 28 days, I think, isn't it, that we haven't had any sun? Want to say it's really great to get out. It's great to be back. The LRL really was quite pleasant. Gave us the opportunity to get most of our debriefing and pilot report done. And I think we had an added benefit there when we had the geologists join us. We learned a lot from that for our next trip. And it's just real fine to be back and out, and I want to stand out in the sunshine and thank everybody that had anything to do with Apollo 12. They sure did their job well.
Good night, Chet.
Good night, David. Good night for NBC News.